Our speaker this morning is a coastal Georgia born and raised journalist, essayist, writing educator, and cultural organizer living in Atlanta. She reports on the justice movements of the Black, LGBTQIA+, and Southern communities to which she belongs, and writes essays to recover her own history and the histories of her ancestors and their ancestral homes. Her writings have appeared in various online and print publications, including Harper's Bazaar, Oxford American, Scallywag, and Prism. Her debut book, Come By Here, a memoir and essays from Georgia's Geechee Coast, is available for you today in the back of the room after her talk. So we'll listen to what she has to say. Please give a warm welcome to our speaker, Neesha Powell-Ingabire.
Thank you. It's really lovely to be here with all of you. I was actually invited by Stell Simon because I'm good friends with her daughter. And when she told me what y'all might be interested in hearing about, I knew I wanted to share this particular chapter from my book. And so I would love to share it with y'all and then see if y'all have any questions for me. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
And we'll have a little conversation, and I'd love you to share about yourself as well. It doesn't have to all be about me, right? Oh yeah, it was my birthday this month. I kind of wanted to get up earlier. No, it's okay. But I just went, whatever the June birthday was. Yes, June 15th.
You don't need to get quite so close to the mic.
Am I too? Yeah, I already have a loud voice too.
Yeah, that's good.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Thank you. I always need that. Volume control. Okay, so the chapter is called The Curse. Let's see here. Let Mama tell it, her hometown is cursed. She first told me and JoJo the story during a visit to our Atlanta home in 2019. While sitting on a yellow IKEA chair in our living room, iPad in hand, she told us Darien, Georgia was cursed by the mother of a Black man lynched there years ago. She didn't know the mother nor son's name, but knew some of the family's relatives. She grew up hearing her grandmother talk about the curse. The curse, Mama explained, is why Darien struggles so much. That's why nothing succeeds there, not the outlet mall, not the juvenile detention center, nothing, Mama said matter-of-factly. I don't remember what moved her to mention this, but I've been obsessed with finding out more ever since. I have friends and acquaintances who've heard of the curse, but nobody knows the details. They heard it from their elders. Some say only the city of Darien is cursed. Others say it's the whole county. I found a post on Roots to Glory Tour's Facebook page about how the curse led to the downfall of McIntosh County's cotton, rice, lumber, and commercial fishing industries. As the story goes, there was a lynching of a young man in the main town. His mother is reported to have put a curse on Darien, that the city would no longer be successful. According to the locals, the curse worked. However, it doesn't say from whom exactly the curse originated. And I haven't been able to get a solid origin story on this folklore from elders. One day I hope to confirm whether the curse is linked to 2 consecutive lynchings that I've researched. On September 8, 1930, 2 Black men, George Grant and William Bubber Bryan, were lynched by a white mob in Darien after being accused of trying to rob a bank, and then allegedly killing the police chief, Robert L. Freeman, and wounding a bank guard and 2 other white men, a deputy and a state employee. A governor-appointed state militia tried and failed to stop the townspeople from taking justice in their own hands. After a white mob of hundreds killed Brian, Darien's mayor put out a statement that it had been a case of mistaken identity. They had actually been looking for Brian's brother. Then a rumor spread that the deputy had also died, a false report from the hospital where he was being treated. When the mob marched into Grant's jail cell, he said he didn't kill the chief, right before they killed him with 3 shots. The papers showed no sympathy for Brian and Grant, only lamenting the death of Chief Freeman. If Brian or Grant were my child, I would definitely have cause to curse the place responsible for their unjust murders. When I asked her about the curse again, Mama said she doesn't believe the curse is real because she's a Christian. I think she doesn't want to be portrayed as superstitious to the public. I was recording an interview with her for a project, but I know what I saw flash in her eyes the day she first mentioned it. Belief. Belief in a source of power beyond the confines of Christianity. Belief in a magic we thought got left behind in the home of our ancestors, but has never really left us. Mama didn't mention being a Christian when she first brought up the curse. She recounted the story in the same tone as she would tell me the sky is blue. I heard not a trace of doubt. She felt comfortable in that chair where her faith in the mystical slipped out of her mouth. Similar to the time she told me and JoJo over Olive Garden breadsticks, she can see into the future. A part of Mama is willing to believe in other forms of spirituality besides Christianity, but she won't admit it on record. Once upon a time in McIntosh County, there lived a beautiful young woman named Augusta. She walked to church with her little sister Dee nearly every Sunday of her life, but this Sunday was different. She looked the same as always, 5'6", slim with flawless sable skin, high cheekbones, pressed and curled shoulder-length hair, donning a tasteful, moderately priced dress from Sears. The pair took the same route along Highway 99 from their aunt and uncle's house to the church less than a mile away. Yet, that spring morning in 1957, the 2 young ladies moved slower thanks to a new addition to their party. Augusta's infant boy, Roy, already developing a reputation in the family for being headstrong. At 19, Augusta knew the congregation would smile in their faces, then gossip about them around their supper tables. It sickened her that her innocent baby boy would be judged due to the purported sins of his mother. You see, Augusta was not married. She wished the fellow dwellers of Meridian, a tiny fishing village, understood dating was one of the only things preventing her from going stir crazy. She envied the increasing number of local Negroes trading in the quiet hopelessness of McIntosh for the hustle and bustle of New York City. In New York City, there were work opportunities outside of white people's homes, and Roy could attend integrated schools with more resources than McIntosh's segregated Todd Grant School. Hopefully, New York City would be an option for Augusta one day, but not today. Today, she was broke and single with a brand new baby in a community where the Baptist church reigned and judged some more. Taking a deep breath, Augusta stepped into the church building with Roy swaddled on her shoulder, sleeping peacefully. She and Dee had barely settled onto their usual pew to the left of the altar when she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned around to see Sister Parker, one of the ushers, beckoning her toward the vestibule. Augusta handed the baby to Dee and followed Sister Parker, who placed her plump hand on the small of Augusta's back and guided her outside. Sister Parker took both of Augusta's hands into hers, looked her in the eyes and said, "You know our church loves you and your precious baby boy, but we can't condone unwed mothers in his house. I'm afraid that you and your baby are gonna have to leave." "I understand, ma'am," Augusta responded, never breaking eye contact with Sister Parker's dark brown eyes and her round face. "God bless you, Augusta." "You too, ma'am." Augusta re-entered the church, collected her baby and baby sister. and walked out the door with her shoulders pushed back, head held high. She wouldn't let them church people see her break a sweat, no sir. She asked Dee to carry Roy while she smoked a cigarette, reaching for the green pack of Salem's in her pocketbook. She secretly pretended to be strutting down a packed sidewalk in Harlem instead of a desolate swath of grass and dirt. Augusta would never live in Harlem, but she did make it to a nearby neighborhood in the Bronx. Shortly after being kicked out of her home church, she met and married Paul, a young man from nearby Savannah who often visited his relatives in Meridian. A pregnant Augusta waved goodbye to Paul as he enlisted in the Army. His service took him to the Middle East, where someone took a sepia portrait of him wearing the gutra on his head, a white head covering folded into a triangle and secured with a thick black cord. After experiencing a mental break, the Army sent Paul to a psychiatric hospital back home, from where he instructed Augusta to name the baby girl Sue. They were eventually reunited, but Paul's failing mental health ruined their relationship. After their divorce, Augusta found herself alone in McIntosh with 2 young children and few prospects. Tired of scraping by as a domestic and short-order cook, she made a tough decision. She needed to get out of the South to support her kids and have a meaningful life. Her mother would take care of the children for now, while she tried to find work in New York City. She would lodge with a family friend in the South Bronx. Augusta used her last dollars to board a segregated train car to New York City with 1 suitcase. Time passed quickly as she daydreamed of the father she never knew, a Pullman porter shot and killed by a stranger in Savannah. Had he ever worked on this train? She tried not to feel intimidated when she arrived at Grand Central Station, blocking out throngs of people as she navigated her way on the subway to her new home in the Bronx. She soon found work as a hospital certified nursing assistant. Augusta felt proud sending real money home to her family. She loved smoking on her fire escape while watching shenanigans on the street. The music, parties, flirting, and fighting. There were Black people, Puerto Ricans, and a sprinkling of white Jews. She tried to understand Spanish and Yiddish from context clues. You didn't hear loud salsa music or see yarmulkes where she came from. Eventually, Augusta got her own place and sent for her daughter, Sue, my mother. Augusta got married to an unscrupulous man from the Caribbean at some point, but was never really open about it, even though I did wonder why she would warn us randomly about Caribbean men. Meanwhile, teenage Sue and her girlfriends sometimes hung out at the park at night, watching rap battles and break dancers. At almost 18, she married her first husband, a boy from McIntosh she'd known her whole life, in her family living room. He wore an afro. She wore white over her growing belly. Augusta smiled proudly in the wedding photos as Sue shyly grinned. Sue gave birth to my oldest sister, Renee, shortly after. A divorce and a second husband followed, yielding my sister Nicole, then me, then another divorce. Both Mama and Grandma migrated back to coastal Georgia in the late 1980s, an era of drugs and decay where they lived in the South Bronx. They wanted a slower, safer life for Renee and Nicole, and for me in my mama's belly. Landing in Brunswick, the slightly more metropolitan city just south of Darien, along with other family members. Most of them joined a large historic Black Baptist church in downtown Brunswick, where I got christened toward the end of 1987. About a decade later, for reasons I don't know, and am wary to ask, Mama and Grandma drifted to Grandma's home church in Meridian, where we still had relatives. Most of the church elders probably knew about Grandma's unceremonious exit, but acted as if they had forgiven her sins. When I got baptized there in 1997 at age 9, I had no idea Grandma had been expelled from its premises. If I had known, I imagine I would feel just as indignant about the incident as I do today. I already had a strong sense of justice, but I wouldn't have dared oppose my baptism because children didn't make their own spiritual decisions in my family. I would have swallowed my anger. Upon returning to her home church, Grandma established a monthly birthday celebration like the one at her former church in Brunswick. She attended the church even as her lung cancer metastasized and ultimately killed her in summer 2006. Her funeral was held there, and she's buried less than 2 miles away from the church. I mostly forgive the church for their antiquated rules back then, but can't help but hold on to a tad of resentment. If they could turn her away from their doors, surely they would have shunned Mary Magdalene. Their behavior was not what Jesus would have done, not as I understood Jesus from the very stories they taught me. Sometimes I wonder what traditions we would have if white slave masters had never introduced Christianity to the black people they held in bondage. Their Bible taught enslaved Africans to oppress and subjugate their women, and the resulting patriarchy still dominates the black church. These beliefs hurt women like Grandma and LGBTQIA+ folks like me. Where or whom might we worship today had white Christianity not been forced upon us? What blessings or curses would we hold? And I'm actually not going to read the rest of this chapter. I'm going to give y'all like some cliff notes because I do want to get to the part where we do a question and answer. So this story, it starts with this curse that I became obsessed with from my mom, and who has always been, says she's a Christian, but however, I could tell that there was a piece of her that believes in this curse and believes that she can see into the future, and that doesn't necessarily align with the Christianity that I was taught. Then I told the story about my grandma who got kicked out of her church for being an unwed mother. I go on to kind of talk about, being baptized and, really striving to be a good Christian, but then becoming really disillusioned with Christianity in a lot of ways, a lot of the hypocrisy, and also, coming out as queer and coming out as queer to my family and them not accepting it, and just seeing so many moments of hypocrisy within religion. At the end, I also talk about in Durham, North Carolina, so I moved there to do a program called AmeriCorps. And I was I feel like I was really looking for my spirituality at that time. I was in my early 20s. And I came upon a Unitarian Universalist church in Durham. And I went and I learned about Polly Murray. Do y'all ever talk about Polly Murray here? They were one of the first ever women Episcopalian priests. They're a very important figure in Durham, North Carolina. They crossed a lot of racial lines. They went to law school. They created a lot of the precedents that came to be known as Jane Crow and a lot of civil rights legislation, right? And so she was queer and probably gender nonconforming as well. And I thought it was so cool that I went to a church and I learned about Polly Murray. I'm like, wait, this is not like the churches I grew up in. And so I continued attending that church for a little bit, but not for too long, just because life got in the way, things like that. But it did show me a different kind of spirituality. Also, I talk about in this chapter about going to college at the University of Georgia and finding women's studies, gender studies, and finding something to believe in other than Christianity, or at the time it was alongside Christianity. But those are the principles that have kind of guided me through my adulthood. Just turned 39 on June 15th, and I'm an organizer, I'm a writer, I write about movements, I report on movements, and a lot of that is rooted in Black feminism. And I say in this chapter that that is my religion. Black feminism is my religion, right? I also, talk a lot about, how that Christianity it's just the Christianity that my family practiced or still practices. It's just, you can't pull it apart from the West African spiritualities or traditions. I feel like you can still see that in the church, even if that's not acknowledged, right? So the whole chapter really just I think of it as my narrative with spirituality, growing up Christian and kind of becoming disillusioned and realizing also there are other things outside of Christianity to believe in, and also that all religion is not bad, right? Lots of things, but I do want to, we have 6 minutes. If folks have, I'm sorry I couldn't read the whole chapter, but that's even more reason to buy it, I guess. Or you can go to your local library and request it, and that's always great if you can't buy it. But yeah, if folks have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer.
Can you talk just a minute more about Black feminism as a spiritual practice?
Ooh, yes. So I'm really glad that you read Alice Walker earlier, Cindy Lou, because she's up there for me as a Georgia writer, right, and a Black feminist, and as one of the people who coined the term womanism, which is, I think of it, I think she says something as, lavenders to purple, as, feminism is to womanism, or something like that. So it's like a different shade of feminism, right? So Alice Walker, Audre Lorde, so there's just so many Black feminists who I have learned from. And as far as a spirituality, as I go about my life, remembering all the different things, the Combahee River Collective, who said, I'm going to paraphrase it, that we can't have any kind of liberation unless it's, the most oppressed are liberated. Once they are oppressed, that means everyone will be oppressed. And that has always been one of my favorite quotes, and something that I remember. Even when I go to report a story, things like that, it's important for me to for instance, I report a lot about environmental racism in coastal Georgia, and that's also in this book as well. I remember, you can't just talk to the elected officials, the authorities, things like that. You have to talk to the people who are the most impacted, right? And so just different things like that. And I do believe in honoring ancestors and things like that. And when I do, Audrey and Alice and Polly are up there, right? And just learning Polly Murray has a few different books, a memoir, different things about their life, and just learning from their life and just using it to instruct how I live my life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really like the phrase in the first story early on about the confines of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's why I'm an existentialist.
Yeah, and really, that's why I wanted this chapter. I was like, I talk about, this is a UU church?
Yes, we are affiliated.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to include that in the chapter, because it was so, when I went there, it was just so different from anything I had experienced. But there's also really great parts of thinking about growing up in my church. When I think about the music and the fellowship, there are beautiful parts of it. I still listen to gospel to this day. So it's very complicated. I'm not a Christian, but there are pieces of it that I can use to piece together my own unique brand of spirituality. Yeah.
I was wondering if you would talk more about how you practice today. You don't have to I don't think anyone has to put a label on it if they're not comfortable, but fellowship and movement and songs are all part of communities, I feel like, religious, spiritual communities.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm so glad that we sang I Wish I Knew How It Feels to Be Free. Did someone sing it before me, Simone, or was she the first? I don't know.
It's an old song.
Is it an old? Okay, so she was kind of maybe doing her own version. But I have a whole playlist of songs like that are just they're spiritual songs to me, and there's so many Nina Simone songs on there. So music is yeah, like you said, so a part of our movements. I think honoring ancestors, that's a big one for me, having some kind of altar space. I talk a lot about in the book how I've like started doing like tarot cards and really being into astrology and things like that, which I guess those don't traditionally go with Christianity and things like that. I didn't grow up with anything like that, but for me, and I'm not saying any of that stuff is real, I don't know if anything is real, but I am always on this journey to like make meaning out of my life, and I feel like those kind of things kind of do help me. And so I've also started to do a lot of like hot yoga and hot Pilates, and honestly, like that feels spiritual for me because it's like that time of the day where I can finally like slow down and like concentrate on my breathing. And you know, a lot of times the teachers tell us to like send love out to, you know, people in our lives and things like that. And so I've found like spirituality in those moments lately. Yeah, thank you for that question. Did I bore y'all that much?
No, one more.
My name is Liz. I was being from the South. I never really heard about the Gala language and the thing in South Georgia until some of my friends took me down there years ago. And then I enjoyed watching the woman who's from that area that does the cooking from specific to that area. I think it's Miss Brown or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I always like to hear about history that's not covered. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I wish you well, and I'm sure the congregation does too.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I didn't grow up learning much about Gullah Geechee history, even though I am from the Gullah Geechee coast. So that's also something I talk a lot about in this book, about how so much, why wasn't this history shared with us growing up? And then thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it's the same reason that they're banning books now. And I think I've seen a few read more books, and I saw something about banned books outside or somewhere, and I'm just like, yeah, I have a read banned book shirt as well. But that's been going on for so long, and that's the reason why they weren't teaching us Black history in our own backyard, is because it was for very intentional reasons. We learned about Fort Frederica and the Revolutionary War and all of this, but we didn't learn about the enslaved Africans who drowned themselves at Evo Landing in St. Simon, so they wouldn't be enslaved. We didn't learn about that. There's just so much. We didn't learn about the culture, the spirituality, the art, the foods. We didn't learn anything about that. And I feel like that, knowing that, would have given me a sense of pride in where it came from, because also a lot of this book is about kind of like running away from Brunswick, Georgia, which is where I was born and raised, because for me, and that's because I didn't know about like this rich culture and history, and that's a lot of the reason why, I didn't have pride in where I was from until I got older, so.
Yeah, hello. You asked about the song, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. Well, I'm going to answer that, I think.
Let's do it, yeah.
That wasn't written by Nina Simone, and she didn't do the first version, I don't think. There's a little story here. That was written by a pretty well-known jazz piano player. He wrote songs also.
Okay.
And he was a jazz educator. He died in 2010, I believe, and he told this story. Billy Taylor, Taylor. If you look in our book, I don't think he wrote the words. He said he had a girl at the time. She was about 7 or 8, something like that. He told this to Fresh Air. And, he was Black, and she came home from school one day, and she sang for him a song that they were doing in school. But what she was doing was accenting the 1 and the 3, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And he tried to explain to her that in her tradition, that you really accent the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he doesn't think she quite understood it. But thinking about that night he wrote as an instrumental. You know, I wish I knew how it would, you know. So he was correcting her. He was saying accent the 2 and the 4. So he composed that. And somebody else wrote were words to it.
Okay.
But the well-known version is, of course, is by
Nina.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for that history.
Sure. Good story.
No. I was pointing to you.
Go there first.
Hey, I'm Susan. I really appreciate your sharing that chapter and your experience with us. That was really awesome. And I wondered if you had ever considered creating some sort of perhaps series or condensed history for elementary school or maybe middle schoolers. It was just a thought I had.
I have gotten that question before, actually. And so I'm like, if I keep getting this question, does that mean that I need to do it? So I'm like, I'm very open to it. Because, yeah, you're not the first person to ask me. And, yeah, I already said my experience growing up without that history. So I know that it's important for young people down there to have, and everywhere, really, to have that history. Yeah, so I'm interested, yeah.
Or child's book. I mean, oh my goodness.
Exactly.
You're a writer and you could like travel from school to school and
Yes.
wow, I just
Put it out there, let's manifest this, yes.
Yeah, good morning, Neesha. We're so glad to have you speak with us, and I just wanted to remind the congregation that we have heard a speaker before about the Gullah Geechee culture on the coast of Brunswick, and she's from St. Helena Island. And I urge everyone to know both Neesha's research and Althea Natalga Sumter's research also, because her ancestral home is on St. Helena, and she says she owns the land on which her people were once enslaved. And she's very proud of that. She holds on to that, and her family holds on to it. And she has come here to speak to us about many related topics. Yes. So I appreciate so much you telling us about that. So we should know a good bit about Gullah Geechee culture before we're done.
I love it, yes. And like St. Helena and a lot of other places, the land is very valuable now. So the folks there are fighting to hold on to their ancestral land so it's not redeveloped. And I have a whole chapter about, if y'all heard of Sapelo Island, and I talk about the struggles that they've had over there with similar situations. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.